comments ready, lovely dragons? What about those Jade requests? It's time for Jade Comments Segment.
It is time for Jade Comments, the segment where we take a break from gameplay so I can read your guys' comments and reply back. No comment will be left unread, as well as take your Jade request games. If you would like to request a game for me to play on the channel, all you have to do is type J request, your game title, in the comment section down below. That's it. Easy, right? There's no limit to how many games you can request. Alright guys, we're going on to Evertail's question. This time for J Comments. Makuma has a good one actually. My first comment for this video is from Makuma, which this one's gonna take some deep explanation, so I'm gonna do my trenches comments in the next video. So you have to spotlight Makuma. And Makuma writes, I don't know if you already explained this, but are there benefits to being in the back row, like increased defense? It's hard to work out some of the sudden mechanics watching the battle. This game seems so mechanically deep. I may give it a shot and really sink my teeth into it. Oh, I did not explain mechanics. There is a lot of advanced mechanics in this game, advanced fighting. So it's gonna take some explanation, so I need to pull up the game. But I will say this, I am recording this before I actually play the game. But as for the latest update that I've been hearing so far, they changed the battle system completely, which is, I hope not, because that would be terrible, because the mechanics in the game are so advanced and so strategic, you have to really plan what you want to do with each character. I'm going to pull up the game real quick and show you and go over it a little bit with you guys. Okay, I'm back. I have a lot to explain for Evertail, so this one's going to be a detailed, kind of long explanation. So first, let me make the screen a little bit bigger, so I'll go over it with you. Okay. On the right side, where the TU bars are at, and behind the characters, we have our skill sets. And most importantly on there, we're not looking at the skills particular, but the TUs. I made notes for myself so I can remember everything. The TUs are the time unit cost skills. Tells you like the cooldown time after you use the skill, so it determines your cooldown for a skill. And the bar below where my big head's at on the screen is the character bar that determines the order of which your characters go in. So by looking at that bar, you can see who goes next, and it determines, like, it goes determined by the TUs used on the last turn. So just think of it this way: if, let's say, one of the enemies have 125 TUs and I use 100 TUs skills, that would push the enemy back by 100 TUs, allowing me to get the next turn before him, because I have lesser TUs, get it? But if I were to do the same thing and I use a 200 TU skill, that means it will push the enemy back by 200, making my turn next after the boss. So you really have to think about how many TUs you're using per skill. I know it sounds confusing, but you have to think that through. So focus on the TUs for attack and whatever you need, because you have some enemies that can attack, some enemies that could just do buffers, some enemies, not enemies, allies, I meant to say. You have some allies that heal, do buffs, and build up your party. Are those that just can heal, or those that just can attack. But with that being said, let's go over some more good things about this. As well as watching your TUs, you have in the top upper corner, you see like this little elemental bar thing in the top left corner. Each character have an element and they have elemental weaknesses. And your character at the bottom will display their element. From fire, you have fire, the lightning one, you have wind, you have water, you have dark, you have light, and certain enemies have a weakness to certain elements. So with those, if it's weak to the element, you get a plus 25% on your attack. So like if I was attacking for like 100 with the elemental boost, I would get a plus 25 and 4. So that is an interesting thing as well to keep in mind. So the battle you kind of do have to watch, but there's more to it than that. You also have to take into account your TU usage. I don't know, I keep calling it TB. Your TU usage. I nicknamed it TB because I'm like, music attack. But your TU, you have to take that into consideration. Like for Finn, let's look at Finn for instance. Finn is a lightning type because you can see the lightning bolt on top of him, so he's a shocker. He has attack. Now, his attack costs 130 TUs. So I gotta keep that in mind. His attack damage one enemy and an ally gains 2 spirits. I'll get to spirits on another time. But let's just focus on our sort of stuff at hand. Now think about this. Time Bolt. It takes 160 TUs, but you have the special effect underneath. You do 400% damage to one enemy if they have 150 TUs or more in the turn order, or 500 damage if the target has 200 TUs or more. So certain requirements and conditions need to be met to use certain abilities. Keep that in mind. If I want to use Finn's Final Stand, you know what I have to do? Yes, it costs 70 TUs, but the cost for using it is the fact that it does 500 damage to one enemy, but I am unable to use it if there's allies on the field. None of my allies can be on the field, so think about that. Finn would work best last because all of my allies have to be defeated and not on the field for his final attack to do damage and work. So he would be best last. So that's why when you see me put Finn to the back, it's because of his special attacks. Certain characters have special attacks. Let's take a look at another one, for instance. Let's get off of Finn. Let's take a quick look at Lemma. Let's see what Lemma's working with. She has Life Flip. Life Flip costs 100 TUs, but the cost for using it exchange the user's current health with the amount of health they have currently lost. Usable once per battle. So you got to think about, when do I need it? When do I want to use it? So you have to really think about that. And as well as her guard allies, the user becomes a guardian for any enemy attack that would hit one or two of your allies. One of the hits is instantly redirected to this unit. The unit will not redirect skills that don't do damage. So you have to take into account like how much TUs you are using. So you can pay attention to the turnover as well as the cost for using such attacks. So you got to keep in mind the conditions of what to use for it. Like for this one, Bash Strike. It's like you have like certain ones you have to do. Not Bash Strike, I meant to say Desperate Strike. It does 400 damage to one enemy, usable only if the user health is at 50% or less. So you got to keep that in mind when you're using that attack as well. But let's switch over from attacks because I talked about that enough. Now, let me pause that for a second. Now we have to take into account as well as team costs. When you're forming your team, you have to go by level. So each character have a level, and the higher level it gets, the higher the cost of your team is. Think about this. When you capture monsters, the easiest way to capture a monster is like they have to be weak on the battlefield. You got to make sure they're in just like at least in the orange to capture a monster to add on to your team. And when you add that monster, you can evolve it, but the more evolved it gets, the higher the cost of your team is. On the right side, you will see cost. So I have on this video, I have 169 costs. I cannot go over that team cost, and that includes the party member have a certain cost to them. The weapons have a certain cost to them as well. So you have to keep in mind which weapons you want to use on an ally. You can't just go, ooh, I want to use the strongest weapon or the new weapon I just got, because sometimes your team costs will not cover it until you level up enough. As well as you have different weapons that you only can equip to certain characters. Certain characters could have to use the red weapons, certain characters have to use the yellow looking weapons, the gold looking weapons I meant to say. So some can use swords, some can use axes, but if that, let's say you have a sword and it's a red color, and that character uses swords, but you can't use it. The little icon above their head will tell you exactly which color weapon, what kind of weapon they can use, and yeah, you have to keep all that in mind. I think only accessories do not cost. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I think that is it. But yeah, that's basically a lot of strategizing and being strategic with it and really thinking about each move you make. Because you have to think, if your character only have one healer and you have a party of probably 6 people, where are you going to put your healer? Do you want your healer in the middle because you're going to need it, or do you want your healer at the end but at the price of sacrificing some of your team members, as well as the conditions need to be met to use such healing abilities? So that's what makes the battle very strategic for me. You have to really think about your moves, strategize. I know it looks like I'm not doing much when I put the party members in a certain order, but I'm actually thinking about their abilities, how I'm going to use them, and everything like that. So you really need to think about how you're going to use your team members. But from the latest I heard from the update, they completely undid all this awesome combat and went all the way auto. I haven't played it yet. I'm recording this before I played it, but I hope they didn't, because the battle system is one of the things I did find really unique and I really liked about Evertel's. Is really advanced and really kept me on my toes. Like, you can't just get through a fight. You had to honestly plan out what you're going to do, which group you're going to use, and who are you going to use. That's how it was done. So I hope the rumors aren't true, but I need to end this Jade Comments because I didn't realize how long it is. This probably is going to be a separate video to itself after the gameplay. So, up to gameplay. Which I probably will stayed with the Jade Comments. Be breezy and back to gameplay.